Jazz Forward is a new live music agency. Established musicians and multi-instrumentalists Marianne McGregor, Malcolm MacFarlane and Sophie Bancroft, along with music journalist Fiona McTaggart, have come together to showcase some of the exciting original music and diverse musical talent to be found in Scottish jazz. Jazz Forward is funded by Creative Scotland. Episode 2. What motivated us to start Jazz Forward?
Well, at the very start, I guess the main thing that kicked us off was doing the online conference Jazz Ahead, which we had me, you and Malcolm had been funded by Glasgow Jazz Festival and Creative Scotland to take part with the online conference. And that was really nice, partly because we were all stuck at home anyway, so there was quite a nice thing about chatting to loads of people on Zoom all day and listening to jazz and talking about jazz. And from there, we saw other countries representing, like, this is Australian jazz, this is Spanish jazz. Like, we saw all these different showcases. And then we all sort of said, why do we not have one? Like, where's Scotland, and why are we not as sort of unified as a jazz team as we could be? And I think we were quite good with just not talking about it for too long and just starting something.
Yeah.
And that's just developed into Jazz Forward, and where we are now is really, really cool.
I think I probably just got a sense that we had quite a lot in common in terms of wanting to move things forward here, really, and just kind of. I think we all identified that there was a kind of gap in what's happening. So and everybody is very proactive as well. So that's obviously very good. Good to have on board, and everybody has different skills. Complement different skills too. It was a very positive thing to come out of Jazz Ahead.
How did it come about that you became involved in Jazz Forward? What was your motivation?
Well, my beginning, I think I was having an email exchange with Malcolm. I think we were possibly ranting about something, and I can't remember what it was now. It was quite a while ago. And I think he mentioned the Jazz Ahead conference that had happened virtually, I think, because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I think you got in touch. I can't remember if it was through Malcolm or to me direct. And then Marianne McGregor got involved. We were all kind of, I think, thinking the same way, because I know that we all have been thinking that it would be useful for jazz to be a little bit more organised or structured in Scotland, and that would be helpful for everyone, including audiences. So it was kind of along those lines a bit that Malcolm and I had been talking originally. Maybe what are your memories of how you became involved and how we all came together?
Yeah, well, I think during the Digital Jazz Ahead, which Malcolm and Marianne and I were all part of the Scottish team of delegates, when we had each day at the end of the conference, the Scottish team would meet on Zoom and discuss how their day had been. And that was quite a fantastic time, really. And, quite a lot of us got talking about things we were finding challenging and how great it was to combine our resources and all these kind of things. And it kind of came out of that. And Malcolm had contacted me and said he'd spoken to you, and then he'd also contacted Marianne, and because we were the people in the team that had largely said we would be interested in pooling resources and just kind of seeing what we could do together. So I think it kind of came out from that, and it's amazing to think where we've got to so far. It's kind of exciting, really, isn't it?
Well, definitely, it's a process, isn't it? But there is something, like you said, about pooling our resources, that between us, the four of us, we have a reasonable number of skills, and if and then we can divide the ones that we don't have amongst us and train ourselves up. I mean, I've been trying to focus on all the mistakes that I have been making, which you are well aware of, some of them anyway, and looking at them as a positive, because it's like improvisation in music. If you don't make mistakes, then you're not going to get anywhere. It's not.
That's right.
You use it as a springboard to bounce ahead from. So I am actually framing the mistakes I make as a positive, because
right, that's brilliant. Well,
it's a new experience for me, because I haven't been historically very good at that. But actually,
that's great, isn't it? Because funny enough, what I'm getting out of it, which is relevant for me, is I'm aware of, before the meetings, getting stressed of all the things that I'm struggling to get done, and then in the meeting realise that I'm not on my own with it. No, and that's a really positive thing for me, is to is that sense of relax. You're part of a team. You don't have to carry everything. And I wonder whether each of us is going to find some of these useful things individually out of this scenario.
So here's the day that should have been.
We talked a little bit about sharing resources and the support of being in this small team. And actually it was interesting because Fiona was saying that one of the things she was finding, that she was learning in a way for the first time, that mistakes can actually be really positive things. And I was saying that I'm learning that I can not get stressed and feel I have to hold everything up on my own, that I'm part of a team, which I think, being a singer and a band leader for a long time, you tend to think you have to do everything, don't you? That it's only you that's holding everything up. And it's so lovely, that notion of actually I'm just a quarter of this thing, which is great. Is there anything that you're learning for you from being involved in it, do you think?
Definitely what you're saying about comparing it to being a band leader is really good, because when you're a band leader, you're like, right, I'm finding out the tempo, I'm counting it in, I've provided all the charts, I've told everyone what key I'm doing, I'm nodding at people when there's solos, and I'm giving cues, and there's so much that you do have to be in control of. There's times in our Jazz Forward journey that I've felt like a lot of guilt when I've not done something, or I feel someone's done loads of stuff and I've not been as involved. And actually a really nice conversation I had with Fiona, where she was just like, exactly what you just said, you're only a quarter of this and you don't need to feel guilt. Because then she pointed out there's lots of things that I've done that maybe Sophie or Malcolm or herself weren't involved in, but that doesn't mean that we're not all involved as a team in this whole thing. And that's exactly what I needed to learn. That there's no real reason to feel guilt about other people doing work, because we are a collective. But all of us bring our own little something to the table.
Yeah, it's a great group. There's a lot of different strengths amongst us all, which is fantastic. Actually, it's really lovely, and it's also, there's something quite gentle about the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely, and it's very it's nice to think of things, and then I would suggest one way of doing something, and then when you hear 3 other suggestions, it opens your mind to be like, okay, well, obviously I was totally wrong. That sounds way better. And then we can all do that on just about everything that we need to discuss, which is great.
Yeah. No, it's quite a learning thing, isn't it? Definitely.
Yeah.
The thought processes are being broadened, but it's great.
But I can't believe how lucky we've been with the 4 of us all kind of syncing up so well.
Yeah, and musically.
And musically, I know.
I mean, that was a complete, because that had never been in the plan.
Not really, no.
And then it kind of happened and was just so lovely.
So we've done, the first one was the live stream we did at yours.
Yeah.
And that was just a lovely, lovely day. Everything about it was so nice.
Yeah.
And it sounded so good. Like, sometimes when you put 3 random musicians together, it doesn't matter how good they are, sometimes it doesn't gel. I don't know if it's something musically or something to do with personality or just vibe, but it all just worked.
This podcast features excerpts of music written by Sophie Bancroft, Malcolm MacFarlane and Marianne McGregor. You can find more information about Jazz Forward at jazzforward.scot.